I drew flowers, tree, sky, and clouds. I drew this for my mother and father in America. I want to meet them very much.
Mama и папа, я вас
I wrote a letter to my parents. Mother and father,
и я
I love you very much,
хочу к
and
вам.
I want to meet you.
Люблю маму
They live in America.
и папу.
My name is not important, but you should know that I am a writer. I took on the task of traveling with the people of Buckner International Ministries to document the situation in Russia, to call upon my words, my phrases, to report the present plight of this country's children. But it was not long after I first set foot on the soil of St. Petersburg that I knew I was not adequately equipped for the assignment, because words alone simply would not do. In this fabled land, long known for its grandiose palaces, there now exists a sight even more startling, even more difficult to describe. It is the eyes of the hundreds of thousands of forgotten children. It is the face of a country no longer able to care for its most helpless, its most precious.
As I was mentioning today to someone, it is so hard to go through these orphanages and not think about what one individual can do, how one family can make a difference.
Amy Norton, Director of Buckner International Ministries and Adoption and Maternity Services, knows these are images that once seen never fade from one's conscience.
The children that run up to you in the orphanage that want so desperately to have someone to love them, and the children who now is when they see me ask for mama and papa, and also just want to be in your lap and getting attention. That probably is one of the things that is joyful yet at the same time breaks my heart, because there are so many of these children.
The statistics make the severity of the situation painfully clear, with nearly 500,000 children now living in Russian orphanages. It is these innocent young boys and girls who are feeling the extreme consequences of Russia's economic crisis. They do not realize that they are victims of the rampant poverty, despair, and alcoholism that has accompanied their country's transition from socialism to democracy. They only know that they have no mother's touch. They have no father's guiding hand.
Well, the children here, if they are left in a hospital, if the parents give them up, which happens very often if the child has any type of physical disability that's visible, or if the family just can't afford the child will go into a baby's home, and that's from 0 to 3 or 0 to 4 years old. Then the child will get moved to another orphanage with different children usually, and that's from 4 to 8 years old. And then once the child turns 8 or 9, they go into an orphanage that's for older children, 8 to 16 or 17 years old. Once those children turn 17, and now it's even getting younger and younger, sometimes 16 and 15, those children end up out on the streets because the orphanages cannot continue to house them. And the children have little, if any, money, no food, and very, very little vocational skills, plus the stigma that they are an orphan, and so their future is very, very hopeless.
No one knows the hopelessness that awaits the orphans better than Vasily Sereda, the director of a baby orphanage by day. Vasily takes to the streets every other night with 2 makeshift vans and whatever food, clothing, and medical supplies he receives. What he sees out here is, to say the least, chilling.
Police reports say that there are children who are found frozen in the streets.
We cruise the cold, wet streets, stopping at train stations, at bus depots, At any place, homeless children come running for what is maybe their only real meal in days. Vasily says for many of these children, these are the first clean blankets or clean clothes they have seen in months. He and his team provide medical attention. They offer counseling, and they seek to find refuge for the children. Yet for most of the thousands of homeless children in St. Petersburg alone, there is no escaping. Home is a sewer drain, a heating duct, an elevator shaft, wherever they can find warmth. And in a city where the temperature often hovers below zero, warmth does not come easy.
When the winter comes, the situation worsens for the children. Homeless adults throw children out from warm places. They do not give them any chance to survive. It is a catastrophe.
This is the harsh, cold world that awaits Russia's orphans. Once on the street, 10% of these children commit suicide within the first year they leave the orphanages. Nearly 70% of the boys end up in prison, and almost 70% of the girls will turn to prostitution. Month after month, this fate approaches for thousands more orphans. The very reason Buckner is acting now to help halt the cruel cycle through two avenues: the Buckner International Ministries Program and the Buckner International Adoption Program. The aim of these outreach programs, which were created by a unique partnership between Buckner and the city of St. Petersburg, is to help fill immediate needs through humanitarian aid, while also working with Russian caregivers to provide them better methods of evaluating and counseling the children. Anatoly Ulyanov, who runs the largest orphanage in St. Petersburg, believes Buckner's long-term approach offers his children their greatest hope.
In March 1996, the Buckner people invited me to visit the United States, where I spent a couple of days. I was able to meet with Buckner President Dr. Hall and other specialists. I was able to see how sophisticated Buckner programs are, which were created for children and other people. At present time, I try to implement some of the programs in my children's home, and I look forward to using more of what I've learned in the United States from Buckner.
Another way in which Buckner is addressing the long-term needs is by introducing transitional homes and support programs that provide the children with a family setting. This kind of foster care is a new concept in Russia, and in this city of nearly 7 million people, there exist but a few such homes.
Well, let me introduce my family. Here is my older son, Zhenichka.
It is a tiny 3-room apartment that houses 7 children. But sitting here, one does not feel cramped, only a special closeness. This 800-square-foot space is positively overflowing with love, and at the heart of it all is Maria Arsenyeva, a retired school teacher who has taken the children into her home to prevent the groups of brothers and sisters from being separated.
But there are still so many thousands more children that need that kind of home. Of course, it's not enough. We need to have thousands more families doing this to solve the problem.
And while it would take time to create a network of Russian families to care for the children, there are other families who can more immediately address the orphans' urgent needs. American families working through the Buckner International Adoption Program. Buckner has already assisted several families with the adoption of children from St. Petersburg. As we sit and talk with Maria, she knows that 2 of her children, sisters Rosa and Alla, will soon join this growing community.
About her new family, I can say what Rosa won't have any problems. She's very communicative. She likes to talk with people. She likes English language, and that's why she will discover in our world. And what's very important, she will get some help with her medical problems that she can't get here in Russia.
The decision to adopt is perhaps the most important a family will ever make. And while the series of steps can be trying, Buckner seeks to make them as informative and realistic as possible through frank, open discussions and support groups before, during, and after the adoption. The process is also made easier for families by the fact that Amy Norton has experienced it for herself. Amy and her husband David adopted their 9-year-old son Vanya in June 1996.
Now I see this as almost a part of my country because this country is tied to my family. Also, in seeing the orphanages, it helps me understand what his life was like. For 9 years, he was in 4 different orphanages, and I look at all the different issues these children face, the hardships and the cold weather and all kinds of things like that, and it helps me understand more of his life and who he is now, and helps us better explain to the families of what to expect with these children.
Seeing the incredible need, looking into the faces of Russia's forgotten children, it is hard to believe that each month thousands more of these innocent children will be abandoned and forced to fend for themselves on the icy streets. Yet this is the cold reality. This is the urgent situation that Buckner seeks to change through immediate action, by finding families for children who are waiting, who are praying for an adopted home, and by providing the financial resources and humanitarian aid required to lead those not adopted onto a path of hope.
I would say to those people who are wondering whether there is a need here, I know many people say, well, why should we go into another country and help children in another country when we have needs here? And the answer that I have to that is that we've been so blessed to have a door opened to our organization, which is the largest nonprofit social service agency of its kind, and it's been an orphanage for 117 years. We have found it a tremendous opportunity to come and share the gifts that God has given us and the things that He's blessed us with, the knowledge to share with these people here. Their needs are so tremendous. No one can come to Russia and go back the same.
We know about the situation here. We see the dire circumstances under which some of the families live, the very, very meager resources.
Gail Spagnola is a clinical director for Buckner.
The ministry of Buckner has always been to help children and to help families, and this is very much a country in need, and its children are very much needing the support of Buckner and the Buckner community.
Yesterday I visited with the leadership of the children's home, and they expressed only one idea, a great gratefulness.
Anatoly Porkov oversees Orphanage Number 9.
They're very grateful to Americans. They're very grateful to the Buckner organization, which helps them. And I have only one request. I want them to remind our children that they always remember they're Russians and that their motherland is Russia, and that when our country experiences hardships, I don't want them to forget it.
But for now, the hardships are far from forgotten, because each day nearly 500,000 children edge closer to a day of uncertainty, of homelessness, of fear. The need is immediate, and the situation seems overwhelming. But as Amy Norton is constantly reminded by her son, the help and the love we give to the children of Russia will truly make all the difference in the world.
Of course, he talks about Russia, and he's told me wonderful stories about Russia and the orphanages, but he also talks about the sorrow that he did not have a mother and father, and that he waited and waited and prayed very, very hard to Jesus for a mother and father, and that he has a mama and papa now because he prayed so hard.
The mission of Buckner Ministries in Russia, and wherever children cry out in need, is to ensure that the prayers of these children are not only heard, but they are answered.